Welcome back. Today, we are tackling what can feel like the final boss in algebra, solving systems of equations using elimination. But what do you do when the equations just don't want to line up nicely? Well, let's dive in and find out. Okay, so you know the feeling, right? You get a problem, you're ready to use elimination, you're looking for something to add or subtract to make a variable disappear, but nothing lines up. The x's don't match, the y's don't match. It feels like you're totally stuck. So what now?
Just take a look at this. We've got a 2x up top and a 3x on the bottom. I mean, you can't just multiply 2 by a nice whole number and turn it into a 3, can you? So your standard elimination trick just hits a brick wall. But here's the big idea. What if we could change both of them? That's the secret, and that's where our next tool comes into play. We're going to call this tool the universal hammer. Why? Because it works on any system of equations. I don't care how messy it looks. If you master this one technique, you can solve literally anything they throw at you. The whole trick is just learning how to tweak both equations to do what you want. Now, to make this work, we need to remember one little concept from way back, the least common multiple, or LCM. It's really simple. It's just the smallest number that both of your coefficients can divide into evenly. So for our example with the 2 and the 3, what's the smallest number they both go into? It's 6, right? So our goal is to turn that 2x and that 3x into some version of a 6x. And look, I know this might sound like some new, complicated math thing, but I promise you, you already know how to do this. Seriously. Remember finding a common denominator when you're adding fractions? This is the exact same skill. You're just using it in a new context. So you've already got this. So, how do we do it? Well, the specific technique we're going to use is what I like to call the crisscross method. It is so simple, it's pretty much foolproof, and it gives you that perfect setup for elimination every single time. Okay, so here's how the crisscross works. It's super easy. First, you just pick which variable you want to get rid of. Then you take the number, the coefficient, from the bottom equation, and you multiply the entire top equation by it. Then you do the opposite. Take the coefficient from the top and multiply the entire bottom equation by that. See? Crisscross. Doing this automatically creates those perfect opposites that will just cancel each other out when you add them up. All right, that's enough theory. Theory's great, but let's actually see how this works in practice. We're going to walk through 3 problems together, kind of like leveling up in a game, from easy to advanced. So by the end, you'll have this skill down cold. Okay, let's start with level 1, the easy mode. This is the best case scenario, where the variables you want to get rid of already have opposite signs. Like a plus and a minus. So let's walk through it. We're going to target y. So we crisscross, the top equation gets multiplied by 3 and the bottom one gets multiplied by 4. And boom, look at that. We get a plus 12y and a negative 12y. They're perfect opposites. So when we add those new equations together, the y's just vanish. We're left with 17x equals 34, a little division, and x is 2. Now just take that x equals 2, pop it back into one of the original equations, and you'll find that y equals 1, and there's our solution. All right, you ready for level 2? This is where it gets a little more interesting. What happens when the signs are the same? Like they're both positive. We just need to add one tiny little trick to our method. The process is almost exactly the same. We're still going to crisscross, multiply the top by 2 and the bottom by 5. But here's the trick. Since both y terms were positive to begin with, we need to force one of them to be negative. So instead of just multiplying by 5, we'll multiply by negative 5. That's the key. That gives us plus 10y and minus 10y. They cancel out perfectly. And from there, it's the same old story. Solve for x, plug it back in, and you've got your answer. Okay, time for the final boss, level 3. But here's a secret. This isn't actually about harder math. It's about being smarter, being strategic, to make the math way easier for yourself. So in this problem, we've got a choice. We could go after the y's, which have coefficients of 3 and 2. Their least common multiple is just 6, nice and small. Or we could go after the x's with coefficients of 5 and 7. Their LCM is 35. Now, both ways will get you the right answer, for sure. But which numbers would you rather work with? 5s and 7s leading to 35s, or 2s and 3s leading to 6s? Yeah, me too. Picking the variable with the smaller LCM keeps all your numbers smaller and way more manageable. And honestly, it just slashes the chances of making a silly little mistake. Okay, at this point, you officially have the skills to solve any system they throw at you. But before you run off, I want to give you a couple of pro tips. We're going to talk about the 2 most common traps people fall into, so you can just waltz right past them. So let's just get right to it. I've seen tons of students work through these problems. What are the 2 little things that trip people up time and time again?
Number one, forgetting the negative. This is huge. If the variables you're trying to eliminate have the same sign, like they're both positive, you have to multiply one of the equations by a negative. You just have to. If you don't, they won't cancel. They'll just get bigger. And number two, and you might laugh at this, but it's true, messy handwriting. Seriously, you're rewriting these big, long equations. If your work is sloppy, it is so easy to misread a sign or a number. Keep your columns lined up. It will save you so much grief.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, that's a cool trick for my algebra test, but when am I ever actually going to use this? And that's a fair question. But it turns out the logic you just learned is actually fundamental to, well, our entire digital world.
Think about something like cryptography, the science of making codes and keeping information secret. Every time you log into your bank account or send a private message, you are relying on encryption. And that encryption is built on solving insanely complex systems of equations. Now, computers don't do it by hand with a pencil. They use something called matrices. But you know what a matrix is? It's just a super-powered way of doing exactly what you just did, scaling up rows of numbers to make things cancel out and find a single solution.
So, really, the next time you solve one of these problems, just remember you're not just doing algebra. You're actually practicing the fundamental logic that helps keep our entire digital world safe and secure. You just learned how to beat the final boss. And, in the process, you've mastered a really, really powerful idea. Thanks for tuning in.